Next question is about time management. That was asked, I think, just yesterday. I'm stealing Shira's cord from her computer without asking. Isn't that awesome? Time management in a school setting. And, when I got this question, I laughed, but it wasn't a laugh at the question. It was a laugh at like, oh my God, I need that advice too, because time management, I think for everybody is so huge. I don't know about anybody else, but like at any given moment, I've got like 20 million things coming at me. And then I've got like something dinging in from like my kids' school. I'm like, I can't even handle personal life right now, let alone work life. So it can be difficult and it can be overwhelming for sure.
Yeah, I think the most important thing when you have a school setting, so I do work in a school setting, but I don't deal with probably a lot of the bureaucracy that is in a typical public school setting, because I do just have like a different style. But if you're limited with, your time and you have a large caseload and you're limited with your staff, I think the first thing that I would do is training, like spend a lot of time on training the staff. Because if you're just focused on putting out fires right away, and every kid that needs a behavior plan and has a problem behavior, and you're just putting in plans and putting in plans and putting in plans, it's just a huge use of your time and not an effective use of the staff's time. So I think the first thing I would say is work on training the staff on behavior is usually the first cause of concern before we talk about skill acquisition, but training the staff on functions of behavior, training them on how to respond to behavior, giving them strategies on what to do when a behavior happens, so that they know what to do. Maybe, if you have protocol in terms of like when they could be taken out of the room versus when they're in the room. I don't know if they do anything like restraints and seclusion. Like that's an important thing to really define for everyone, so that you have all those protocols and everyone's aware of the protocols, and training on that is really important, because then instead of just you putting things in place, you now have a team. So you really have to get your team going and get your team behind that, and get the buy-in, because so much of what you're going to need to do requires their buy-in. So really focus on even building the relationships with them and getting them to see why you're there. You don't want to work against them. You want to work with them. And I would say even for me, that took a long time. It took a couple years where at first I was just like, oh, you just do ABA. Like, I don't need to listen to you. Like when I need you, I'll call you and you can come in and solve my problem. But like, it's at the point now where I give professional development to the group. And at this point, I'm like, you all could do this better than me. And they all know the answers. And they've all heard so many times functions of behavior and replacement skills and data collection that it becomes part of the language of the environment. And I think that that's a huge piece of it. And obviously when there's new staff, you have to train them again. But that would be step one. Step two then would be putting things in place that help with that antecedent stuff. So the stuff that we've put in place was things like social skills training for all the kids, so that we're constantly working on appropriate social behavior. And it's not just something that we do when a kid has a negative behavior. Putting things in place like data collection, reinforcement systems. So working on those antecedent strategies, that because most of the behavior plans that even I found myself writing, we're all repetitive. Like they're all going to be about using visual schedules and using a reinforcement system and using appropriate countdown warnings and having there be like all of that stuff was repetitive. So you could just get all that stuff happening in as many places as possible. That would also help with the amount of behavior plans that you need to write, because if every teacher was using a great reinforcement system and an appropriate visual schedule, think about how many behaviors you'd eliminate. So getting those antecedent strategies, I think, would be next, like the next priority. And then the third priority, and this is very similar to the PBIS model, where they look at the different tiers. The third priority would probably be then picking out those specific kids who maybe need more. So you've done the training, you've done the appropriate antecedent strategies that are school-wide or class-wide, and then thinking about the kids that need more. So maybe they need a little bit of pull-out, or maybe they need a more intensive behavior plan or a safety plan, things like that. And that might take more of your involvement, but you can then just be involved on those few kids because you've eliminated all those other things. And that would be my suggestion.
Yeah. We've got two more